Licensed video games from different movie and television franchises have inherently negative connotations surrounding them, given their cheap, if not outright poor quality most of the time. And in my opinion, that's something that can't be helped, given the sheer change in interactivity between video games, movies, and television. And when these types of games are released, you're going to see quite a few raised eyebrows. Though once in a blue moon, you'll get a genuinely decent title, or better yet, a franchise that actually benefits from a video game based on it. And this time I'm going to be talking about a classic, so let's begin. The Force Unleashed combat is its foundation and the outlet for its dynamic and cinematic nature. When you defeat enemies, you gain force points, and the more diverse your use of force is, the more force points you accumulate. And the game itself actively encourages you to mix things up by throwing different types of cavalry at you, making way for some pretty tense encounters. The force points you gain from defeating enemies net you ranking spheres of three varieties: power spheres, combo spheres, and talent spheres. When you level up, they can be allocated to improve the three categories. Force combos are exactly what they sound like. They expand your arsenal and variety of combos you can perform. Some require you to lock onto your opponent with the RB button, but I wouldn't recommend doing that when dealing with multiple enemies at once, especially when dealing with certain enemies like the Purge Troopers, even more so when there are multiple of them. Force talents are essentially your base stats. You can increase them in rank to improve your damage output and negation, though increasing them also influences interactions with enemies, like the Vitality ranking sphere, which influences how much health you receive from fallen enemies. Force powers expand your arsenal of available abilities as well as increasing their potency. And when they're fully maxed out, you'll be nothing short of an agent of destruction, more so than you were already. Seriously, Starkill is a menace, and this is no more apparent than with the game's QuickTime events. Slicing ATSTs in half, assaulting Rancors with the Force, ripping a goddamn Star Destroyer out of the sky. Alright, that last one's a little bit of an exception, but I still wanted to mention it regardless. Feats that only accentuate the game's inherently over the top nature. Though, even with all that said, my favourite method of defeating enemies in this game is force ripping them. It's the most enjoyable thing to do in this game. You can also grab moderately sized objects in the terrain and throw them at enemies as well, though it's best to do that after you thinned out their numbers a bit. This mechanic alone is worth a purchase, and I really hope we see something like it in the future Star Wars game, however unlikely that is. Within every mission lies these Jedi and Sith holocrons. The Sith holocrons grant you temporary power-ups like unlimited force energy and invincibility. These are helpful when dealing with swaths of enemies and can save you when you're in a pinch. The Jedi holocrons, on the other hand, hold permanent rewards and customization options, both aesthetically and combat performance wise. Most you find out in the open hold force points, but the other hidden ones contain different costumes for if you want to change things up, different lightsaber colors, and even power lightsaber crystals with different attributes in combat. They're not too hard to find, and the game will reward you for exploring your surroundings. Though if that is too much trouble, you can always input cheat codes. To this day, Star Wars The Force Unleashed stands as a prime example of what I and many others consider to be the ideal Star Wars game. A prestigious achievement that's recognized even now. And I'm saying this with the likes of Fallen Order and the Battlefront games under my belt, and I'd recommend it to newcomers and fans alike. And even with its relatively short length, it still manages to pack a healthy amount of content in. A memorable experience, worthy of its praise and merit.